Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Uttara chapter number 22, Ravana and Yama. The recitation begins now. Hearing his mighty shouts, the Lord Vaivasvata knew that his adversary had gained the day and that his own host had been destroyed. And knowing that his forces had been slain, he, with his eyes crimsoned with passion, hastily spoke unto his charioteer, "Bring thou my car!" And thereat the charioteer brought the noble and mighty car and stood there, and then that exceedingly energetic one mounted the car. And in front of his car stood Death, equipped with prashas and maces in his hands, who makes nothing of this entire three worlds, incapable of deterioration. And beside him was a rod of time in its native form, the divine instrument of Yama, like unto a flaming fire on account of its own energy. And then, on beholding time, infuriated, tending to strike terror into all creatures, was agitated the three worlds, and trembling overtook the denizens of heaven. And the charioteer urged on the steeds, possessed of graceful splendor, and arrived where the lord of Rakshasas was posted. And in a moment those horses, like unto thought in celerity, and resembling the steeds themselves of Hari, took Yama where the warfare had already begun. And seeing the frightful car in that aspect with death present in it, the ministers of the Rakshasa monarch at once took to their heels. And in consequence of their being comparatively inferior in point of strength, they were deprived of their senses and afflicted with fear. And saying, "Here we are not equal to fighting," they went their way. But seeing that car capable of striking terror into folks, the ten-necked one did not experience any agitation, nor did fear enter his heart. And approaching Ravana, Yama, enraged, discharged spears and tomaras, and began to pierce Ravana's marrow. But Ravana, without feeling anything, began to shower arrows on Vaivasvata's vehicle, resembling a downpour caused by clouds. And again at his spacious breast, that Rakshasa who had undergone slender injury could not resist Yama's arms with hundreds of mighty darts hurled. And in this way that destroyer of foes, Yama, fought for 7 nights with various arms, until at length his enemy was driven back and deprived of his senses. And then, O hero, there took place a mighty onset between Yama and that Rakshasa, both eager for victory and both never tiring of fight. And celestials and Gandharvas and Siddhas and the supreme saints, placing Prajapati at their head, presented themselves at the fight. And the encounter that then took place between that foremost of Rakshasas and the Lord of the Dead was like the universal upheaval. And stretching his bow, resembling in splendor the thunderbolt of Indra, he discharged arrows covering up the sky. And he smote Death with 4, the Yama's charioteer with 7, and swiftly struck Yama in the marrow with hundreds and thousands of arrows. And then from forth Yama's mouth there issued darted flames with his teeth mixed with smoke, the fire of his fury. And witnessing this wonder in the presence of the deities and the Danavas, both Death and Time were fired with wrath and were filled with delight. And the Death, growing still more wroth, addressed Vaivasvata, saying, "Let me go, I shall slay this sinful Rakshasa. Even this is my native might, this Rakshasa will be no more." Hiranyakashipu, the graceful Namuchi, and Shambhara, Nishandi, Dhumketu, and Virochana's son Bali, and the Daitya Shambhu, that mighty monarchs Vritra and Bana, and Rajarishis versed in all branches of learning, and the Gandharvas, and the mighty serpents, and sages, and Pannagas, and Yakshas, and swarms of Apsaras, and the earth herself, containing vast oceans, and mountains, and rivers, and trees, at the unrolling of a yuga, all these, O mighty monarch, have I brought to dissolution. All these and many more, endowed with strength and incapable of being overcome, were at the very sight of me compassed with peril. And what is this ranger of the night? Let me go. O thou cognizant of righteousness, I shall slay this one. There is none that, albeit strong, can survive after having been seen by me. Verily, this is not mine strength. This might pertain it to me by nature. O time, if seen by me, he won't live for a moment. Hearing these words of his, the puissant king of righteousness spake there unto death. Do thou stay, I myself shall slay him. Then with his eyes reddened, that Lord Vaivasvata wielded with his hand the infallible dart of time, while by him lay the redoubtable noose of time, and the mace in its native shape resembling fire and a thunderbolt. He who by his very sight draweth away the lives of creatures, what should be said of its touching and being hurled at people? Then, touched by that powerful one, that mighty weapon, surrounded by flames, attained access to the energy and seemed to consume the Rakshasa. And in the field of battle, everyone afflicted with fear ran away from it. And beholding Yama with his rod uplifted, the celestials were agitated. And on Yama being desirous of slaying Ravana, the great father, manifesting himself, spake unto Yama, O Vaivasvata, O mighty armed one, O thou of immeasurable prowess, this certainly must not be. Thou shouldst not with thy rod slay the night ranger, for, O foremost of celestials, I have conferred a boon on him. And thou shouldst not render false the words that I have uttered. Verily, he that whether a god or a human being shall falsify my words shall render these three worlds as false. There is no doubt about this. If this terrific weapon, capable of affrighting the three spheres, be discharged alike at friends and foes, it will destroy creatures. This rod of time of immeasurable might and incapable of being resisted by creatures was created by me as having the power of compassing the death of all beings. Therefore, do thou keep thy uplifted weapon of Lanka's Lord. If thou have any care for these worlds, do thou establish my truth. Thus addressed, Yama then answered, I restrain this rod. Thou art our Lord. But as I cannot slay this one who hath obtained a boon, what then shall I now do in the field? Therefore shall I disappear from the sight of this Rakshasa. Having said this, even there did he vanish with his car and horses. And having vanquished him and distinguished his name, he again ascended his Pushpaka and went out of the abode of Yama. And with a delighted heart, Vaivasvata, along with the deities headed by Brahma, as well as that mighty ascetic Narada, went to the celestial regions. Mangalam Koshlendraya Mahaniya Gunapte Chakravarti Dhanurjaya Sarva Bhaumaya Mangalam.